Welcome to I Said What I Said, a sports podcast giving you opinions not heard anywhere else. I'm your host, Brad Wakai, alongside my co-host, Tyson Gentry. And Tyson, it's great to be back in the saddle, man. We took off a little bit of time as I was traveling. Obviously, we had Thanksgiving, so it's great to be back with you, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing almost as good as you, I think. I mean, you sound a little bit maybe under the weather today. We're playing sick here, people. But yeah, from my understanding, Brad's been on a heater. He's been golfing as much as he can. Look at him. He's tan, people. I mean, come on. What more do you want from the kid? They thought they could kill us, Brad, and here we are.
I
They
know.
thought they got
So
rid of us.
went to Vegas for my brother's birthday early, so it's just me and him out there for a little bit. Golfed for his birthday, which was nice. Then we hit the casino a few times and got a couple sports bets down, Tyson. It went well, as you alluded to. So I'm hoping we can carry that into our episodes because it's been a rough football season for the boys.
Well, we did well when we weren't actually putting him on the pod, which is pretty funny. How much farther is Nick carrying his driver these days than you?
That was the first time I'd swung in 11 months. So I think he had me by about 20 yards when it started. But once I got warmed up, I got the beer gut into it, Tyson, and we just let it rip.
Big brother juices came back. That's what that was.
Well, we hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving holiday as well. Hopefully you spent time with your family, ate some good food, all that good stuff. We're able to watch some football because, Tyson, we're going to do our NFL Week 12 recap like we always do. And we're coming back in, and we got a lot to discuss. Frank Reich was fired. Carolina Panthers moving on. We're going to talk about that. So then we're going to go into our hot seat rankings with other coaches who were fired. As Adam Schefter reported, there could be as many as 7 to 10 NFL coaches getting let go this offseason. Then we're going to discuss the Eagles, a very hot topic right now, and then and then the AFC early projections for the playoff picture that we have going on here. But Tyson, let's get into it now because, I mean, is anybody shocked? David Tepper, I want to get into it here, but you kind of did like a fake, if you're watching on YouTube, like a really type of thing, like sarcastically, because are we shocked about anything that goes on at this franchise now?
No, I mean, it's the Carolina Panthers, like outside of the 15-1 Cam Newton year, and there's been other, you can go back to like 2003, obviously, like the early 2000s of Jake Delhomme and those guys, um, solid NFL franchise. And then it got real bleak real fast. And then Cam Newton came walking through the door, and it was like, holy smokes, man. Ron Rivera's got this thing rolling. This is who the Panthers are. This is who David Tepper is. Occasionally in sports, you just get stuck. Your favorite team gets bought by a moron, and you're subject to whatever that guy or girl or whoever wants to do with your team. And it's a little bit more prevalent, I think, in the NBA. So when it happens in the NFL, it's like, I can't believe this is all going on. The Bears have been the Bears for a reason for the last 20 seasons. The Raiders have been the Raiders for a reason for the last 20 years. The Panthers are just now like the Cardinals tricked everybody, right? There is 5 good ownership groups in the entire NFL, like guys that you really know year in and year out are going to run the organization the right way. Carolina is most certainly not one of them.
No, and David Tepper. So I'm looking at here. This is from Front Office Sports. So David Tepper bought the Carolina Panthers and Charlotte FC, the MLS team. In less than 5 years that he's owned it, he's had a combined 5 coaches, fired Ron Rivera, fired Matt Rule, fired now Frank Reich on the football front, fired Miguel Angel Ramirez. Right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. And Christian Latanzio. He fired 2 head coaches this year, Tyson, Latanzio and Reich, on his soccer and football side here. Here's what I'll say. I was talking to my brother about this, too, because we were like, we knew this was coming because it's David Tepper. This guy comes from an organization, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who never fires coaches. And you would think, as a minority owner there, when you're listening to these boardroom meetings, and you're listening and you're kind of sitting and observing and you're waiting your turn and your time to own an NFL franchise, that you would take things that you learned from that stability and apply it to what you want, how you want to run your franchise. Not David Tepper. He knows more than everybody, Tyson. He comes in, you know what? I'm going to do everything my way because you know what? This is my shot to own something. I know more than everybody. I'm a successful business guy. So I'm going to do things this way and it's going to work out. And if it doesn't, I'm just going to fire and throw money at it until it does. Well, football's not business. You need football guys and you need patience to build an organization the right way. And he hasn't done it.
You know what the Steelers didn't do 15 years ago when they hired Mike Tomlin? They didn't go get a retread that flamed out from other NFL teams, right? This is like, we can go in on Tepper and he deserves it. The Panthers organization kind of deserves a lot of the hate they've been getting, if you ask me. Frank Reich was bad, man. And this is 2 years in a row he's been fired in season by 2 different organizations. So you can't put all the blame on Tepper. He was also, I mean, covers were bare. It doesn't have, if CJ Stroud looked bad, I think that Frank Reich still has a job. I think that's like a legitimate thing that you kind of have to ask yourself. Anthony Richardson has 2 games in the NFL. He might have 2 better games than Bryce Young at this point in their respective careers. And it's way too early for the bust label for Bryce Young. But it's also like if you're an impatient owner with the track record of doing the wrong thing, you're looking around the league being like, okay, so how did the guy that went 2 hit, but our guy, it's got to be the coach. It can't be me. It can't be anything else. And Frank didn't do himself any favors, man. Handing off play call duties, taking them back. The offense looks bad both ways. It didn't matter who was calling the plays. But at the same time, what was the best case scenario, right, for this Panthers team this year? Was 6 wins was the ceiling probably before the season? Like, they were never, ever going to be a playoff team.
No, they weren't going to make the playoffs, and you were hoping you're going to get 6 wins because the pick they have right now is going to the Bears and that moronic deal to go up to get Bryce Young. And listen, if they thought Bryce Young was going to be the guy, Tyson, you have to do everything you can to surround him with pieces like Adam Thielen, Terrace Marshall, Miles Sanders, Jonathan Mingo. Like, that's not the answer here. And then, like you said, like Reich was struggling. This offense looked putrid. It's just stuck in mud. But to kind of close things out on Tepper, that we can kind of move over to where the Panthers go from here. Matt Rule, who David Tepper fired last year, $40 million still left on his contract. Frank Reich has $30 million left on his contract. So feel free, man. You got a lot of money. We know that. Billionaire, all that good stuff. Keep firing coaches so you get it. But Tyson, today, though, this should put at ease to all the Carolina Panthers fans out there. In his press conference, he said he wants to have a 20, 30-year coach. He's searching for that guy. He wants to have somebody give a eulogy for him in 30 years. So, hey, don't worry, Panthers fans. I'm sure this guy will find you the right one.
Look, man, I know money buys a lot, but if you take a look at David Tepper, I don't know if we got 30 years left. I'm just going to be real honest. Who wants the job? Like, you turn on ESPN and you get these guys that just want clicks and, oh, it's Ben Johnson's job. You got to go get Ben Johnson. Or, Brian Johnson built Jalen Hurts up because now there's smoke. He's going to get a head coaching job. None of these dudes are picking you, right? You are the fail safe. If all other jobs are full and they don't have one, who wants to walk into a job to work for a guy who has fired, like you said, 2 coaches this year in his 2 respective franchises? 5 coaches total in the last, what did you say, 3 years, 4 years? Nobody is willingly taking that. Nobody's going to walk in to coach. Look, man, hindsight's 2020, but Bryce Young is built like a middle schooler. And I don't know if a lot of people are going to want to say, I want that guy, and I want no picks, and I want all my money to be tied up in these dead assets, because Miles Sanders is on the books. You're paying him to not play. And you can run through the list. How many times are we going to do this with Brian Burns? You're going to give him $100 million just so he can quit and he doesn't want to play for you? He never has. I personally think this is Arizona Cardinals territory last year, where it was, you're going to be the last one to fill up. You might be the first one open, but you're going to be the last one to fill up.
Yeah, and I think, if you're Ben Johnson, Chargers job, which we'll get into, that's likely going to be open.
All of them.
Why are you putting? Yeah, so why we got a lot to discuss here with head coaching opportunities that are going to be available. Tyson, like you said, people are going to put their name in the hat here. There's only 32 of these things. Like, we always like, nobody's going to want that job. Oh, there's only 32 of them. That seems pretty sought after, if you ask me. Like, I'll take that job. I'll be fired for that much money. I mean, geez, if Tepper doesn't have anybody, he can give me a call. But I'm agreeing with you. This is not an attractive job when you look at it through the lens of other open NFL positions. I mean, like you said, the owner's crazy. It doesn't seem like the organization is well run. They have no draft capital. They have a quarterback right now who looks completely lost. And that was not what – I mean, he may have been small. He may have been all these other things. He was not supposed to look lost on a football field. And that's, I think, the biggest concern here. So we'll see. I mean, one of the reasons that they did this – they're going to have the early opportunity to go start vetting candidates, go start interviewing. Do they go to the college ranks like they did with Rule? I don't know. Like, who knows with this front office, man? Who really knows? Let's get into our hot seat rankings, Tyson, because you know what? If we didn't want to damper it enough. Let's talk about guys losing their jobs. And I always want to start by saying
We don't
I
want
never
anybody to
root
lose
for
their
anybody.
jobs.
I
No.
never root for anybody to lose their jobs.
I wanted
except for
Urban to
one
lose his
person.
job, though, hard, heavy, right away.
You did. You called that. And the way he acted, it's kind of hard. I did. I will say this, and this is more of a college thing, but Mike Yurcich, I was rooting for him to lose his job as the Penn State offensive coordinator, as a Penn State alumnus. But that happened for me, so it's okay. Let's get into the first one, though, Tyson, because there's a report from Jordan Schultz, at Bleacher Report. The Chargers are done with Brandon Staley. So, okay, hot seat rankings. Where do you put Brandon Staley right now after they have a massively disappointing season so far?
Dude, I mean, we're going to go 1 through 5. 1 meaning we're not super concerned. 5, this guy's losing his job. Brandon Staley's a 5. Brandon Staley is not going to be the head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers next year. Not only will he not be the head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers next year, who wants to bring this guy in as defensive coordinator right away? Like, I think that this is a year away from football kind of deal. We all forget that they have the most expensive or one of the 5 most expensive defensive units with bottom 5 production from a defensive guy. Like, we've been saying this on this podcast now for his entire tenure. Was it 3 years now that he's been in LA? He can't coach. Like, there are different aspects of being a head coach. Like, what happened to Spagnuolo? Like, Spags was a bad head coach. He's one of the best defensive coordinators in the game, and he was one of the best. Some guys can't do this job, and that's not a slight. Like you said, there's 32 of them. I don't think Brandon Staley can coach, period. And that's kind of where I'm at with this thing. I know the Rams defenses were good. They had some generational guys on that side of the ball. That was a very, very fun job for Brandon Staley to have. If he was coaching this Raiders defense next year, or if he was coaching this Vikings defense, or pick a random name out of the hat, there is no marked improvement going to happen because you have Brandon Staley. That's it. Like, this is a quality control position at some college that you've hardly heard of. It is coming.
5 for me as well. He's going to get fired. There's no way the Chargers, as cheap as that ownership group is, there's no way
it won't be in season though.
It will not be in season. Absolutely not. So it's going to be after the year. They're going to flounder out. They're going to actually get good draft capital. Okay, maybe you can do something with that. Whatever the case may be, he will not be the head coach there. Tyson, I think I agree with you. A year away from the NFL. Let me throw this out there. Defensive coordinator for Lincoln Riley at USC.
No, that's a job, man.
That's not bad. That's not bad. Can't be worse than Alex Grinch.
Well, even if you are, like, who cares? It's going to be different enough that people are going to be slow to catch up. You go back to the NFL.
Arthur Smith, the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons.
This one sucks. This is probably the hardest one that we have on the list here. I'm going to put it at a soft 3 right now. If they win the division, he's not losing his job, people. Like, I don't. Making the playoffs in the NFL is hard. I know now that there's 14 total teams, like half the league gets in the playoffs, it's a little easier. Arthur Smith might just end up winning that NFC South. And if they win the NFC South and he can bide his time and continue doing these things that, are referred to online as acts of football terrorism, which we don't always disagree with here, the guy wins football games. And he wins enough of them to kind of, every time the seat gets super hot, Arthur Smith grabs a bucket of water. Desmond Ridder goes back home, goes to Atlanta, and they win a football game. This just is what it is.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for me because if you're asking me what I would do, this would be a different. But I'm saying 2. Yeah. I don't think he gets fired. Arthur Blank, the owner of the Falcons, is very patient. He's not an overreactor. He wants to see things out first. And he's given Arthur Smith some chances here. I mean, I think earlier in the season, God, imagine David Tepper. He would have been fired week 3. So he finally started giving the ball to Bijan Robinson. What a novel idea. You give the ball to your best player, and it works out. So they're leading the division now. They're in the playoff race. If that maintains, Tyson, we're simpatico. He's not going to lose his job, so he is a 2 for me. But how about Matt Eberflus, the head coach of the Chicago Bears? Big win, Justin Fields, comeback victory. Does that buy Matt Eberflus some time?
No, I don't think it buys him time. It should not buy Justin Fields time. I don't think we're going to get into the Bears game from last night, that Bears-Vikings game. Dude, they have like 7 forced turnovers in the last 2 weeks. The offense has scored 13 points off him.
So bad.
He fumbled twice on game-winning drives and then finally got a third chance to do it. Now everyone's like, he drove him down the field, got the field goal. That's all that matters. It's like, dude, if Josh Allen did that thing, you guys would be losing your minds right now. I think Eberflus is gone.
Okay.
But I'm a little hesitant to put it at 5 because it is the Chicago Bears, right? So we can go 4 just for the sake of the show. I fully expect Matt Eberflus to be fired. I think that they're going to be positioning themselves to make a pretty hard push at Harbaugh in Michigan. Like that's really what I think is going to happen. I don't think he takes the job. I think we're when he comes back to the league, it might even be this year. I don't think he's going to want that job. The other part, what do you want Ryan Poles to do? Like this isn't his crew. This is kind of who he was given. Like, here's your quarterback, here's your coaches, all that stuff. He wants to buy himself time too. How do you do that? You get rid of the head coach, you get rid of the quarterback, you get yourself 3 more years.
I'm going to put it at a 5 because I fully think that they're going to move on from him.
Yeah.
Now, my hesitation that would bring me down to a 4 is the defense is starting to play better.
Dude, they're nice. They're frisky.
They are. And so now I'm wondering, maybe Eberflus positions it to Poles saying, well, why don't we go get a new OC? It's the offense. It's not me. It's Getsy. So could that buy him some time? And he's like, well, how about this? We'll just restart the clock. We'll get rid of Fields. We'll bring in a new OC. We'll pair it with Caleb Williams or Drake May. And I'll just keep running the defense. That's my hesitation on the 5 here. I don't know if he's going to win that argument. So I'm going to say he's fired. I think they're going to move on from him. So he's a 5 for me. But I think that could be an angle he plays. How about Dennis Allen, New Orleans Saints? What do you think about Dennis Allen? This is an interesting one.
This is, to me, personally, this would be a 5. What I think the Saints are going to do, I'm going to put it at 2 because I fully expect him to be coaching this team next year. I think if you contextualize things a little bit, you can kind of, if you squint real hard, you can see Dennis Allen's point of view here, which would be, you go out and we get this quarterback, and then he's hurt, and he kind of stinks. And like all these offensive guys, I got this Kamara suspension hanging over my head. Kendrick Miller gets hurt. We got all these things going on. And I'm a defensive guy. The defense isn't the reason that we're losing all these football games. It's the same thing with Eberflus, except for the Saints actually win games. Not enough, but enough in the NFC South to stay competitive. And again, maybe we're tainted a bit by the Sean Payton era, but the Saints aren't I don't think that ownership group is interested in just turning and burning coaches over and over again because they're in a worse position than everybody else in the league, and nobody wants to acknowledge that fact.
They've kicked the can down so many times, Tyson. I think it's flattened at this point. I don't even know if there is a can anymore. It's just disintegrated. I don't know how they have money.
You can kick the can down the road if you're winning. When you're not winning and you kick the can down the road, and now it becomes time to pay the piper, man.
It's happening right now. And I think I'm putting this at a 4, and I agree with you. The ownership of the Saints and the Pelicans, they own both. They do not make rash decisions. They sit and they analyze everything, and then
potentially too patient.
I was going to say probably a year too late they make decisions. So I think when you look at Dennis Allen, it's like, well, why would we go with an unknown? Dennis has been here. He understands. I think to your point too, and kind of what I said in Chicago, Pete Carmichael didn't even want this job in the first place.
Right.
I think they could move on from him, bring in another OC, bring a young offensive guy, have Dennis still run the defense, and you kind of just hope things kind of magically change there. I can see that. Now, I put it at 4 because I think there's a real chance that they know if they don't win this division, that they're like, this can't happen. Let's go get somebody else. If they win the division, there's no way he gets fired. But I think I'm going to put it at a 4 here for Dennis Allen, Tyson.
I think if they fire him, it's got to be quick after the season. I don't think that this can be let's play this into March, right? Because by that point, you're just kind of getting the leftovers. And what's the difference between Dennis Allen and Eric Bieniemy or whoever it would be in the grand scheme of things? I don't think it changes much.
How about Todd Bowles, Tampa Bay Bucks? This is a rebuild situation here with Baker Mayfield. What do you think is going to happen down in Tampa?
I think the only way that Todd Bowles gets canned is if they find a quarterback they really like. And I think if they don't, I think from what I can gather as an outsider when I just watch and read about the Bucs, right? I don't know the inner workings of the building. I think that they are fine with where they're at right now because they got the Super Bowl. And I know it feels like it was forever ago. That banner is flying right there. It says 2020 right on it. It's only been a couple of years for that Bucs team. It was a mass exodus of all the guys that wanted to show up, and that is continuing. And who's a better tank commander in the NFL? If you're
Mm.
gonna be bad, it's got to be Todd Bowles. I I would say if let's say they take Jaden Daniels this year at 16, or Penix or Nix, or pick your QB3, basically whoever you like. Then things get interesting. And like if that's the way that they think the board's going to fall, I can absolutely see them being like, let's get out of this. Let's try to find a young offensive head coach, because Todd Bowles, like, we can Google the offenses that Todd Bowles has been the head coach for, and you can come back to us and let us know if you think that he should be the guy interested with the young quarterback. I don't think that's going to happen, and I think that Todd Bowles is going to lead this team to about 1-16 a year from now. I'm going to put it at a 2.
Out of 2. Ooh, okay. No, that's interesting. That is interesting, because you got to think about these organizations. You got to think about these owners. Are they impatient? What expectations do they have for their franchise? And it could be that they're still content with winning the Super Bowl. They understand that it's going to be a transition period. That's why they went and got Baker Mayfield as a bridge, right? And let's use him. Let's get into the new era, I guess, and we'll see with all these older guys, if guys won a Super Bowl, who we want to hold on to, who we can trade, and things like that. But Tyson, man, does he inspire anybody? Like, I don't know if he's making passionate cases to keep his job. Like,
yeah, that's true.
I don't know, man. I'm going to say a 5. I think the Bucs will move on. Like, 2 years, okay, thank you. It's after Arians. He took over. Let's go see if we can get somebody else in here. I think the Bucs are ready to do that. I think they're going to be aggressive and drafting a quarterback that they can start a rebuild around. And I think that's going to be the course of action they take this offseason.
Well, that one will be very interesting if that happens, because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have not had the best track record at picking head coach. Bruce Arians was a godsend, right? But when we're talking Dirk Cutter and Raheem Morris and all that, like, it hasn't been good.
Greg Schiano.
Right.
How about Ron Rivera? This is our second to last one here. Coach of the Commanders. They started trading off pieces, got a new ownership group there, and Josh Harris. What do you think about Ron Rivera?
I mean, it's 100% chance. Like, if it's 5.0000, there's no shot that Ron Rivera keeps his job. New ownership group. And I honestly think, Brad, what's going to do him in more than anything, more than the bad records his entire career, outside of, like, besides the fact that he's basically Jeff Fisher in disguise, they lost to the Giants twice. That's about impossible in the NFL in today's day and age. And they quit after the first one, traded off the guys. Those were the bad locker room guys. All right, now we're going to roll. Sam Howell's leading the league in yards. Let's go. It's not been great, but it's been fun. And then that's the product that you get in a division game. They quit. And, like, you can go back to Carolina. Those teams quit on Ron Rivera too. Like, this is just, he runs his course, man. And I think if we're going to talk about the Commanders, I think there's a pretty good chance, if we're going to say that Brandon Staley could be in USC next year, I think we're going to get full suit of Jack Del Rio walking up and down the sidelines, because I cannot believe that guy got scapegoated for this entire thing. How many times Ron Rivera got to fire a coordinator because he is losing games?
Yeah, but Jack Del Rio sucks, man. Like, he's so bad.
But step in front of the bullet once. Just once.
That's fair.
That was my fault. I'm the one that lost that game. I'm the one that didn't go for 2 against the Philadelphia Eagles to win the game earlier in the year. I'm the one that punts from your 40 on 4th and 1.
Well, it's a 5. You said he's getting fired, man. Like, what do we do? Like, the Commanders traded off these pieces because they're ready to rebuild. You don't rebuild with Ron Rivera. Is anybody in Washington, D.C. Metro going, yes, Ron Rivera's leading the rebuild? No. You know what's exciting? Ben Johnson. Some of these young coordinators. You know, I mean, I think you could even sell. I think you honestly could sell. Of course, now I'm blanking on his name. The offensive coordinator, Eric Bieniemy. I think you could sell that, because the offense has been electric. Like, oh, we just get our defensive guys in here, we're going to be good. Ron Rivera is not going to be the head coach of this football team next year. Like, this is a new ownership group. They're making changes. They're putting their stamp on the organization. That's all it is there, and he'll be looking for a new job. Let's close this. How about Sean McDermott? Just coming off a tough loss against the Eagles in overtime in a game they needed to win. It's been a brutal season for the Buffalo Bills. Do you think he has a job next year?
Not in Buffalo. No, I don't. I think he's fired for sure. I think that sometimes guys can be a bit of a like you're a victim of your success or you're a victim of the guys that you hired success, right? Because Brian Daboll shows up, Josh Allen becomes amazing, expectations change overnight for this team. Like as soon as Diggs showed up and Josh Allen showed he could play, Super Bowl or bust. Well, it busted. The writing is on the wall, and I'm a fan of Sean McDermott. I'm not going to lie to you, but I've never seen somebody coach. He coaches to not lose the game. He doesn't coach to win football games, and that's the biggest issue. I think the nail went through the coffin on Sunday in Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia when he kneed the ball with 2 timeouts and 20 seconds left. You have Josh Allen was far and away the best player on the field on Sunday.
God.
Josh Allen looked like that's the MVP. That's the guy that like finally we get one of these games. Unfortunately, it was against our favorite team, but it's just like when that guy has it rolling, what are you going to do? You're not going to give him 2 shot plays against that secondary. The coward, man, soft.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think yeah. I'm going to put it as a 4. I don't know if the Pagulas, the owners there, if they're fully ready to move on from this. Feels like they should. Feels like the writing's on the wall. It feels like they've reached their ceiling. We've talked about this right before we went on vacation. I think they've peaked. I think it's time to move on. I'm not the owner. I'm not in charge. I think there's a big chance that they run it back next season with aggressive moves in the offseason. I wouldn't be surprised if Stephon Diggs was moved out of there. I wouldn't be surprised if other pieces were moved out and they really try to rapidly rebuild this thing. But with that being said, there's also a big chance that they kind of agree with us here, Tyson. Like everybody in the world saw Josh Allen was ridiculous that day and that you had timeouts and then you had time and you didn't let the guy who's your face of your franchise QB try to lead him to a victory when you need one. Let's go first, leave up the chance on a coin flip. You're lucky you won that one.
Just insane.
So I think he's
for a team that whined so hard about the overtime rules to the point that they got him changed to then just take like you lost with 13 seconds left and you've seen this happen to you.
Yep.
Against a guy who was playing just like your guy on Sunday. I mean, dude, he probably is tough. As like we hear about the wrestling and all that stuff, he's a hard-nosed guy. The teams that he coaches haven't been. They haven't made a winning play, Brad, like a real winning play in a big moment yet.
I'm curious. This offense looks way better without Dorsey and under the new OC Joe Brady. I mean, I don't know if it's a boost or if it's like Dorsey actually sucked, but you know, could it be a possibility that freaking Joe Brady gets promoted?
Dude.
No shot, right?
No shot. I think that Joe Brady might have earned himself some money as an actual offensive coordinator again in the NFL next season. I think that's probably closer to what's going on, unless like the only way is if Josh Allen is like, I love this guy. Like this is going to be the guy.
Right.
But if that was true, then maybe you just call Daboll and be like, how much we got to pay the Giants to get you back? Because this is going to be the hottest job on the market if it opens. Like without a doubt, no question. The Patriots
over the Chargers.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The Chargers are the Chargers, man. You want to go work for the Spain? Like Dean's? No. I mean, that's no home field advantage. Herbert's awesome. So is Josh Allen. And infrastructure-wise is so different.
I'll take Allen over Herbert. We've gone through this before.
Absolutely.
So, okay. So Sean McDermott was the defensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles might have just gotten his ass canned, Tyson. And it was in an absolutely Houdini act. Another one. We got to go through this. And we'll go through this quick because if you want to listen to our in-depth breakdown on anything Philadelphia Eagles, we got a podcast. It's called Filthy. Go check that out if you want more.
PHILTHY.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Brad, actually. We're more in depth on that. But right now, this is a big story in the NFL. So we wanted to address that here on I Said What I Said, because Tyson, everybody said, the Eagles, we're going to fall off a cliff this season. They had one of the easiest schedules in the NFL last year. They have one of the toughest in the NFL this year. They were frauds last year. Now they're actually going to have to go through a gauntlet. And they beat the Dolphins. They beat the Cowboys. They won on the road at the Chiefs. And after that big victory, they beat the Bills.
End of their season.
So let's throw it to you. What are you seeing with the Eagles here? They've been outgained 4 weeks in a row by their opponents, yet they've won. So let's go through what you're seeing here and what other people are saying, and we can get into this a little bit.
So I think a couple takeaways from the last few games. The offense in the first half is so bad that it's justified for people to be like freaking out a little bit. I think, burying a team at halftime is a pretty stupid thing to do, especially when that quarterback now has 8 straight wins when trailing by 10 plus points, an NFL record by double, second place there. So teams take on the identity of their best players. And that's been true in sports forever. And when your best players are guys that have been around, like Kelsey and Cox and Lane Johnson and those guys that have won at a high level, like we're talking about 2 Hall of Famers and a Hall of Very Good, like an all-decade player in Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, the all-time games leading. Jalen Hurts, his calm is just what is getting this team through, because you listen to these people talk, and it's the Eagles are just better at the little details and all they mess up the little details
Oh,
probably
God.
more than the teams that are playing. Like
This
how many
season for
guys,
sure.
how many teams have guys running in motion where the running back runs into him and fumbles at a critical juncture in a game? Like that doesn't happen to other teams. So I don't want to hear how many guys get 2 center fall starts on the potential game winning or game tying drive last week. Those are little details that the Eagles mess up all the time. They've been turning the ball over at a rate that wasn't, there last season. They still haven't played their best game. All that stuff, and they're 10-1. And the reason they're 10-1 is because Jalen Hurts is so much freaking better than anybody wants to give him credit for. Even still, I know he's leading the MVP race, and I understand all that. You will not find – it's a hot take to say Jalen Hurts is a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. And that's fucking ridiculous.
Oh, man. Top 3, maybe a stretch. But Burrow's hurt. I think Herbert's more talented. He doesn't win as much.
He's not better.
Man. I think we'd have to relitigate this like down the road, I think for sure. But here's what we know about the Eagles and Jalen Hurts. Dude's a winner. This Eagles team is a winner. They've lost 2 games when Jalen Hurts starts in the regular season, the past 2 seasons. It's unbelievable what we're doing. And I think people who understand football, like they understand what's going on with this Eagles team, is they have the DNA that wins. Okay, yes, we're going to get down, but we can come back and win. And that's ultimately what the NFL is about. Nobody complained early on in the Chiefs dynasty or the Chiefs, with Mahomes and Reed, when they were getting outplayed and they would come back and win, right? Like they were like, oh my God, just the resilience of this team, Mahomes and Andy, how they do it. Yet, because I think people are still not sold on Jalen Hurts, people don't like Nick Sirianni, and let's face it, people don't like the Eagles.
Right.
They're hesitant and reticent to give any credit to this team. Now, I think that's ridiculous. The penalties thing, okay, the Eagles have gotten pretty lucky.
They've gotten away with some stuff, man.
Or with the referees, that's for sure.
Let's be clear about last week, though. The talking points, right? Like the horse collar, which the refs explained, that's not what he brought him down by. That's not what the call. You can grab, you can't drag, right?
Yeah, which is I thought was the entire, like everybody on Twitter is tweaking out, Tyson. I know you're not on Twitter. I was like, I don't think that's a rule.
No, and that's why. And then they're complaining about the intentional grounding on the same play that Josh Allen got up and asked the ref for, right? Like that was him asking because he thought it was a sack and he wanted the intentional grounding instead of the sack. You've missed pass interference penalties against the Birds. That stuff happens to every team. Like I understand we're sitting here as fans and it's like, oh, we don't get as many calls as everyone's out here pretending we do. The Eagles have gotten away with some shit, and it's been some serious stuff this season. There's also been points in every single game where you can point at the screen and say, Jalen Carter just got held 4 plays in a row. Somebody is riding AJ Brown like a backpack. That is the NFL. And it's a fan thing to, complain about calls, and it's never going to change. And I don't want it to, but I'm saying teams that win Super Bowls are boa constrictors. They're not, it's not Francis Ngannou coming out here throwing haymakers over and over and over again, because that was the 2022 Eagles. And what happened? The Chiefs constricted them in the second half, came back and won that game. The Rams that were all flash in the Jared Goff era, what happened? Belichick just did what he does. And it just was, we're going to make you play football for 60 minutes. Because let's be honest, Brad, some of these teams, the talent discrepancy and what happened in the Raiders and Chiefs game? The Chiefs rolled out of bed in the second quarter and said, well, that's enough of that. We're just better than you. And good teams are good teams. Great teams are different. There are 2 football games essentially going on at the same time. There's the game that starts in the first quarter, ends in the fourth quarter. And there's a second game that's comprised probably, what'd you say, 10 moments, throughout a game, the Eagles don't lose many of those moments.
Last time I checked, sports and professional football was about winning games on the field, Tyson. And the Eagles have done that better than just about any other team in the past 2 seasons. And so we'll see. Everybody's waiting. There's a big game this weekend. Everybody's loving the 49ers. It's a great spot for them coming into Philly.
It is.
Philly's
It
been
is
on
a
the
good
field
spot
a
for 'em.
lot. But one thing I know, and we'll preview this later in the week. We'll preview this. One thing I know, one team is proven to be a winner. Another team has come up small in big games over the years under their head coach. But that we'll get into that preview later, Tyson. Let's get out of here on this. Let's talk about some playoff stuff because it's at that point. I mean, we're 12 weeks through. So we want to talk about the AFC side here and give a little early playoff projection because I think this is super fascinating. I think the NFC, there's some teams in there that we can discuss. I think it's really a pool of 4.
Right.
AFC, I think, is pretty wide open. So you wanted to talk about this. Let me chuck it to you, and you kind of explain what we're doing here.
So we're just going to go through the bottom half here, the AFC. We're going to exclude the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Dolphins, and the Jaguars. They're your current division leaders. We're just going to talk about 5, 6, 7. Who's getting in here as the wild card? Brad, I'm going to read you off these percentages that I have in front of me. These are from ESPN.com. I think it's their FPI. I think it's a Football Power Index. I'm not totally sure. Of these guys' percentages to make the playoffs, you tell me if you think that this is the order that you think it's going to end up in. The Pittsburgh Steelers, 74%. The Cleveland Browns, 68%. Houston Texans, 53%. Indianapolis Colts, 44%. Denver Broncos, 29%. Buffalo Bills, 22%. It's only 3.
Wow.
Only 3 of them can get in, man.
Okay, so Steelers, I think, with how they looked last week with the new OC, that's promising if they can get that output, especially considering their defense.
And the quarterbacks are about to play. Or continue.
They're 7-4. They're 7-4. They have leeway here. I think that they're probably the favorite to make the playoffs out of this group because when you look at the Browns, quarterback issues once again. Deshaun Watson out, DTR got a concussion. Are you really going to go back to PJ Walker? That hurts their case. So I think they're overvalued right now if they're talking about the Cleveland. Indianapolis Colts, not a buyer. That defense isn't good enough. I'm not falling for smoke and mirrors. Jonathan Taylor finally had his best game of the season. Now he's going to miss time with a surgery. Thumb injury, out. So I think Houston Texans, I'd slot them in there. They'd be my number 2 behind the Steelers. And then I think the Denver Broncos are a legit contender to make the playoffs. They have the best quarterback out of that list. They have probably the best defense. Well, the Browns have the best defense, but the Broncos are turning people over. And so I like what they're doing there. And I guess I forgot about the Bills. You did mention them. They have the best QB. But what's the vibes like in that locker room right now? Because they're 6-6. They're dead. The Broncos won 5 in a row, man. They're feeling good. And they got Sean Payton, who I think is a better coach than Sean McDermott. I don't think that's a hot take.
I don't think so either. I was more so grimacing that you omitted CJ Stroud already.
Well, I put him in there. I put him in.
Oh,
like
got you. You meant out of the rest. I got you.
Yeah.
I think, for me, I think Pittsburgh is in. Like, I think that's the way this thing's going to unfold. I don't understand how it's happening. I don't really get whatever like mojo they have going on.
Oh my God.
And if you ask them, they were unlucky on Sunday, which it was not something I've seen in a decade plus. But they're going to make the playoffs. We talked about it with the Eagles. Steelers, like a baby brother version of that, not in a disrespectful way, but in like they don't win quite as much way over the last couple of years. They find ways to win games too that are just dead, and then they come back and win those games. I think Houston is going to make the playoffs. I was actually encouraged with their performance against Jacksonville. I know they lost the game. Look, man, that was 1.5 yards away from overtime at home. Like if CJ Stroud gets the ball, it's wrapped. Like they were going to win the game on that kick, were they?
No, that overtime.
Was OT. Yeah, okay. Yeah. But my third one here. I look, I know you're a Broncos guy, and I get it. They've been much improved. Defenses like the one in Cleveland don't come along that often, and when they do, those teams just sneak into the playoffs. Like if we go and look talent for talent on the offensive side of the football for the rest of the teams in that race, the Browns are probably dead last because they're going to be starting PJ Walker. There's something going on in Cleveland right now where they have harnessed some of that Steeler magic and they're able to make games ugly and gross as well. An important thing to note here: they won over the Colts earlier this season,
Right.
and that's going to come into play here down the stretch. I think, product on the field wise, what I'd rather watch in the playoffs is probably a little different than who I think is going to make it. But I think it'd be the best story would be if the Broncos made the playoffs. To get 70 hung on you and then turn around and become the second best defense in the league over the next stretch of 8 games, it's truly unheard of.
Yeah, Vance Joseph, we were ragging on you a little bit. At least I was, because I always do. But hey, you got to give credit where credit's due. He's turned the unit around. They're turning the ball over. They're holding people firm, man. They're doing a good job in Denver. I think it's quiet. I think they're about to get some noise there. The question for me, Tyson, is that smoke and mirrors? Is it all fugazi? And is it a house of cards about to come crashing down? Or is this a new era Broncos right now, and they're hitting their stride?
I don't know. But one thing I do know, Brad, is the AFC stinks. And that's something that
Oh,
nobody wants
it's
to talk
bad,
about.
man.
Like preseason, the AFC is so much better than the NFC. Last week, the AFC is so much better than the NFC. Let's get to the playoff. You look at that list right now, and the Chiefs can win the Super Bowl. The Ravens can probably win the Super Bowl, and the list might stop there.
Then you go,
Like if Miami,
maybe Jags, maybe Dolphins.
right? And that's like you're really everything has to break right. Whereas if you run through the NFC, the Eagles can win the Super Bowl. The Niners can win the Super Bowl. It's going to make me throw up, but Dallas can win the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
There's better teams in the NFC. The AFC is a mess, and I'm not confident in saying that the Ravens make it out of round 1 the same way I am confident in saying the 49ers and the Dallas Cowboys will make it out of round 1.
Yeah. So, lot to keep our eye on here. We still got a bunch of time left, man. We got a lot of games to go. This is going to change. It's going to be fluid. Panthers might fire another coach in the meantime. We're not sure. It's a nice little parting shot on the way out. But Tyson, great chatting with you again, man. I hope you were rested. I hope you had a nice little recharge away from me, staring at this skin dome up here, a little bald dome.
Oh, it's been nice to see. Sometimes I got to check my reflection and stuff, so it's nice.
That's true. See if you got anything in your teeth or anything. Yeah, that's what I'm here for. All right. Well, Tyson, let's get out of here on this note then. We got, since people forgot about us, we got a bunch of sports going on. Where can they find our plays?
They are in the Chalkboard app. It's in the App Store, Google Play, wherever you download your apps. The group name is the Roundtable, or ISWIS presents the Roundtable Bets. It's Brad and I will let you write it in. It's free. Throw down whatever parlay you have, whether you're combining 25 college basketball games or you want to do just a little simple 3-legger. Throw it in there. Throw up your straight picks. We're just here to have a good time, man. And this conference championship week in college football. And we have reached the end. Like, there's not a whole lot more you can bet on in college football. So take whatever. This is what I'm doing, and I'm pretty sure this is probably what you're going to do as well. We're going to take whatever we won on our season-long bets here, people, and I'm spraying the board. And that show we're going to be recording it tomorrow for our college football one, and we will have that episode out to you guys probably Thursday. So make sure to check that out, because this is one of the weirder championship weeks in the history of college football.
Yeah, Tyson did a great job laying out. We got a big show coming up, big week of shows. As we got bowl stuff we're going to get into. That's going to be fun. We got big plans for you on the college football front, which Tyson said will be coming out to you recording tomorrow. In the meantime, we went a little long here, but we wanted to talk to you guys. It's been a while, so like, subscribe, and share the show. We always appreciate all the support you guys give us. I hope you know that by now. Whether you're watching on YouTube, smash that like button. If you're listening in podcast form and you haven't rated or reviewed yet or anything like that, please give us a 5-star if you haven't already. It would go a long way. Share it with your friends, share it with an enemy, whatever the case may be. And if you want more of us, connect with us on social media, X, Instagram, TikTok, same handle at ISWIS_pod. So we'll be back talking college ball like Tyson teed it up. It's a big weekend of championship football. We'll have that for you soon. Till then, guys, peace.